Today on our 2016 Chevrolet Equinox, we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Roadmaster EZ4 base plate kit with removable arms, part number RM-523184-4. This base plate is going to do a really good job of keeping a nice clean look on your vehicle when you're not towing it, but when you're ready to hook it up and tow it behind your motorhome, it's nice and simple and makes it easy to do that. And here you can see the tabs where our drawbars go into are tucked away nicely underneath there, and the most visible part over here is going to be the safety chain connection point right there. Here we've got these two mounting points in order to mount a wiring bracket for the front of the vehicle. That way this base plate gives you a nice designated spot to put it, and you don't have to figure out where you're going to mount yours. Another thing that's really nice about this base plate is the installation is pretty straightforward, and there's no drilling into the frame required like with some other base plates. This does have removable arms, so in order to use those, you slide it into place, press it so that pin comes all the way out, and turn it till it locks into place there. And then you're ready to hook up your tow bar and pull it. And whenever you're done, you can pull the pin out, rotate it back, and remove the arm. But what's nice about this is if you don't want to take that arm out every single time, it doesn't come out so far to where it's unattractive and stands out on the front of your vehicle. Now, let's show you how to install this base plate. First thing we'll need to do to begin our installation is we'll begin removing the fasteners so that we can take our front fascia off. We've got 4 T20 torque screws here along the top edge of our fascia underneath the hood. Now on this panel here, right above the headlight, there's going to be 3 push pin fasteners that we're going to need to remove. You can take a flathead screwdriver, get under the opening that's on the underside of the head of our fastener, pop up the center, and you can work the body of that fastener out of there. And that'll allow us to take this and lift it up a little bit. Then we'll do that same thing on the other side. Now we'll remove our fasteners that hold the inner fender to the front fascia. We're going to have 2 of those same style push pin fasteners as we had under the hood. Have 2 T20 torque screws. And then right up in there's going to be a 7mm screw. Then we'll go to the other side and repeat that process. Now on the underside, there's going to be 2 7mm screws that we'll need to take out. That'll be the same for the other side as well. With a second set of hands, we can remove our fascia. You'll need to start at the fender and just begin pulling outward to unlock the tabs. And then if yours has fog lights, you'll want to be sure to disconnect the electrical connections, but this one doesn't, so we'll carefully set it aside. On the back side of this bumper rail, there's wire loom that's held in by 5 clips here all the way across. So we can just take a pair of pliers, squeeze those in, and push them back through. Now, we'll take our bumper rail off. And there's going to be 3 13mm bolts on each side. We'll take our bumper rail off and set it aside. Now we'll take our ambient temp sensor, just carefully work it out. Then we can just let that hang there for the moment. Now I've marked the air dam over here on the side for the area that we need to cut out. So we'll be cutting down that line to cut this whole outer section off in order for our base plate to fit there. I'm going to use a utility knife in order to cut this. And then we'll do that same thing for the other side. With those bolts that we removed from each side in order to take the bumper rail off, we'll be reinstalling those when we put our base plate up into position. And when we install them, we'll be putting red Loctite on them. When you do that, you just want to get a nice little bit on the end of it there. Now we can put our base plate up into position. You want to get the holes lined up and get one of the bolts started on each side. Then we'll go back and install the rest of our bolts to secure our base plate to our frame rails. Now before we begin tightening our base plate down, we'll want to make sure that it's pretty well level. There, it's nice and level, so we can begin tightening it. Now, we'll use an 18mm socket in order to remove that body bolt. Now we'll take the longer 14mm bolt that comes in the kit with the lock washer. Then we'll need our pipe spacer and one of our lower brackets. So now what I'll do is take my bracket with the single hole side down. I'll put that pipe spacer on top of it and begin putting my longer 14mm bolt through. Then I can begin threading it back up into the frame. So I'll get that started, and then I'll be able to line up my holes out here on the bottom side of the base plate. On the back side, we'll take split lock washer and nut and just get those started by hand. Then we'll repeat that process for the other side. Now we can begin tightening the hardware on this brace. And we'll start with the one that's the replacement for the body bolt. So we'll use the 7/8 socket for that. And then for the two 1/2-inch bolts in the bottom of the base plate, those will take a 3/4 inch wrench and socket. So we'll repeat that process for the other side. So now, the bolts on this lower bracket, we'll torque them down to the specification listed in the instructions. And then we'll be sure to do that on both sides. Now we'll need to loosen up this washer bottle so we'll be able to move it back and out of the way a little bit. And there's going to be 3 10mm bolts holding it in. And we can take this washer bottle and just push it back a little bit so we've got a little bit more room right up here. Now we'll take the 10mm bolt out that holds in the horn. And we'll put that horn off to the side out of the way. Now we'll need to put our top brackets in place that mount to the top of our base plate. And with these brackets, you want to be sure that you get the correct one for the correct side, because this hole needs to be going up and you want this opening to be going outwards. Because on this side, when we put it back in the position, you can see that that's an opening for this hose to go through. So we'll get the holes on the top lined up and put in 2 of our 1/2-inch bolts with lock washers and hex nuts. In order to help get the lock washer and nut into place, what you can do is take a little bit of tape in order to help hold that washer on there, and then take a knife, just cut an opening back into it so that you'll be able to thread the bolt in there. Once we've got both of those started, we can take our backing plate with pre-drilled hole. We'll be able to slide it in here between the washer bottle and this section of the frame that comes down here, so then it'll be behind and lined up with the hole. so then we can put one of our longer 1/2-inch bolts through. Then on the back side, we'll need to get the washer and nut. Now we can use 3/4 wrench and socket, or another wrench, and then begin tightening our 1/2-inch bolts. We'll be sure to go back and torque them to the specification listed in the instructions. Now we can reinstall the horn and resecure our washer tank. Now we'll torque down the 13mm head bolts that secure our base plate to the front of our frame rail here. And you want to make sure that those are torqued to the specification given in the instructions. Now I'll take the zip ties provided with the kit. We're just going to double them up so that it'll completely cover all the way around, and we'll take that wire loom and zip tie it to the base plate. Then we'll take our ambient temp sensor and zip tie it right up here to the top of our base plate. Now, if you're going to be using a supplemental braking system, now's going to be a good time to install that breakaway switch. It does come with a little bracket right here that's a good place to mount it, but the kit does not come with the breakaway switch itself. That's going to come with your supplemental braking system. Now on the inside of our fascia, we've got this foam pad. We're going to need to remove that so we can reinstall our fascia. It's got little clips here at the corners that you just need to push in order to get it to release that pad. Now grab a second set of hands in order to help put the fascia back into position. Now begin reinstalling all of our fasteners in our fascia. Now here in front of the tab that the removable arm goes into, you can see that the fascia is coming down in front of that just a little bit. So we can take a utility knife, we can just cut this area out so that we've got better access up into that tab. Now we can test to make sure that our removable arm will go all the way in there. Slid in nicely and lock it into place. Comes back out as well. So now we'll do that same thing on the other side. That's going to complete our look at and installation of the Roadmaster EZ4 base plate kit with removable arms, part number RM-523184-4 on our 2016 Chevrolet Equinox.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.